Module 7, Getting to the Root Cause. Building a positive foundation and gathering information are key steps to resolving conflict. But it is going to be difficult to solve the problem if we don't know what the problem is. In this module, we will learn how to delve below the current conflict to the root of the problem. This phase is important for long-term resolution rather than a band-aid solution. Examining root causes. Once the groundwork has been laid, it is important to look at the root causes of the conflict. One way to do this is through simple verbal investigation. This involves continuously asking why to get to the root of the problem. An example: I was very upset when Sharon vetoed my idea at the meeting. Why were you upset? I felt that my idea had real value and she didn't listen to what I had to say. Why didn't she listen to what you had to say? She has been with the company for a lot longer than I have, and I feel that she doesn't respect me. Now we have progressed from a single isolated incident to the root cause of the incident itself, and probably many more past and future incidents. Resolving this root cause will provide greater value and satisfaction to all involved. Paying attention to the wording of the root cause is important too. Watch out for vague verbs. Try to keep emotions out of the problem statements. Creating a cause and effect diagram. Another way of examining root causes is to create a cause and effect diagram, also known as a fishbone diagram, with the person that you are having the conflict. To start, draw a horizontal arrow pointing to the right on a large sheet of paper. At the end of the arrow, write down the problem. Now, write each cause on a line pointing to the group arrow. Sticky notes work well for this. Creating a cause and effect diagram continued. Now the people in the conflict have a clear map of what is happening. Creating a cause and effect diagram continued. Although this technique can be time-consuming, it is excellent for complicated conflicts or for team conflicts where there may be more than one root cause. The drawing should be updated as new causes are discovered. The importance of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a key concept in conflict resolution. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting that the conflict happened or erasing the emotions that it created. It does mean accepting that the conflict happened. Accepting and working through how it made you feel, accepting the consequences that it had, and letting those actions and consequences exist in the past. Successful conflict resolution should give the participants some feeling of closure over the issue. Participants should feel that the conflict has been resolved to their satisfaction and that it will not likely reoccur. These accomplishments should help participants put the conflict behind them and move forward to more things that are positive. These goals should be kept in mind during the resolution process. Ask yourself, will resolving this help provide me with closure? Will this action help me accept what has happened and move on? Identifying the benefits of resolution. There's no doubt about it, conflict resolution can be hard work. Effective conflict resolution digs deep into the issues, often exploring unfamiliar territory, to resolve the core conflict and prevent the problem from reoccurring. However, this process can be time-consuming and emotionally difficult. You and the person that you are in conflict with may arrive at a point, or several points in the conflict resolution process where you wonder, is this really worth it? When you arrive at these stalemates, look at why you are resolving the conflict. It can also be helpful to explore what will happen if the conflict is not resolved. What relationships will deteriorate or break up? If this is a workplace conflict, what is the financial cost to the company? What will be the emotional cost to the participants? Who else will be affected? These questions should help participants put things into perspective and evaluate whether or not the conflict is truly worth resolving. In most situations, resolving the true conflict is well worth the effort in the long term. Visualizing the benefits can provide the motivation to work through the rest of the process. For complex conflicts, there are some additional ways to stay motivated. It's okay to break the resolution sessions into parts with a different goal for each session. It's also okay to take breaks as needed. A walk around the block or a glass of water can do wonders to refresh the mind and body.
Justin, a financial manager at a large business, denied Marty's request for a small increase in funding to the marketing department. Marty noticed Justin grin and, frustrated that the work on his presentation was dropped that quickly, asked, "Why?" Surprised by Marty's question, Justin stood up from his seat and declared, "Because I said so." Not satisfied with that response, Marty investigated further. Both Marty and Justin verbally squabbled until Marty had enough and declared a truce. Marty asked Justin if there was even a reason for his denial. Justin admitted that there wasn't and explained that he was just in a bad mood. Looking over Marty's proposal again, he admitted his plan was sound and okayed the budget increase.
Module 8, Generating Options. Once you have a good handle on the conflict, it's time for all parties in conflict to start generating some options for resolution. In this stage, it's all about quantity, not quality. You want as many options to choose from as possible. Generate, don't evaluate. To begin, generate ideas for resolving the symptoms of the conflict. Then, move on to the root cause and expand your list of ideas. Don't be afraid to throw out wacky ideas or to ask, what if? Remember, this stage is about what you can do, not what you will do. It is very important not to censor yourself or the person that you are having the conflict. Record all possible ideas into a list or brainstorming diagram. If you have created a cause and effect diagram, you can record ideas for resolution right on the diagram. Once again, sticky notes are ideal for this initial idea generating phase. At this stage, all your work to build common ground and positive relationships will really start to pay off. As you and the person you are in conflict with start to generate options, the positive energy will build, increasing your creative output exponentially. If you are having trouble thinking of solutions, use these questions to jumpstart your creativity. In an ideal world, how would this conflict be resolved? How do we not want this conflict to be resolved? How might others resolve this conflict? Creating mutual gain options and multiple option solutions. Once you have a good list of options, look over the list and perform some basic evaluation. Cross off options that are an absolute no-go for either party. Highlight options that provide gains for both parties. Look for options that can be combined for an optimal solution. Make options more detailed where appropriate. Continue brainstorming and generating ideas. What if your entire list of options gets crossed off? Then it's back to the drawing board. If you are having trouble coming up with ideas, consider taking a quick break, moving the brainstorming meeting elsewhere, and/or involving outside parties. Digging deeper into your options. Once the list has been narrowed down, dig deeper into each option and identify the following: the effort for each option, perhaps on a scale of 1 to 10, the payback for each option, also on a scale of 1 to 10, your estimation as to its likelihood of success, other options that could be used to complement it, each party's preference for it, expressed as yes, no, or a percentage in favor. At this point, we are still gathering information and exploring options, so try to make the list as long as possible. For simple conflicts, 3 to 5 options is usually sufficient, but with more complex issues, 5 to 8 options may be necessary. If the team involves more than 2 people, you will likely need 8 to 12 options.
Vern had never felt confident enough to share his ideas at department meetings while his colleague, John, thought his own ideas were perfect. Vern remained quiet and started to think that his own ideas weren't important. His coworker, Joanne, noticed Vern's reluctance and suggested that he should share. He cleared his throat, sat up taller in his seat, and began to share his thoughts on where the department should be focusing. Despite John stammering, "What about me?" all eyes were on Vern and ready to hear his contributions. His confidence renewed, Vern gave detailed data about his idea and won the praises of those around him. From then on, he never shied away from meetings.
Module 9, Building a Solution. Once the possible solutions are laid out, it's time to move on to choosing a solution and laying the groundwork for a resolution. This module will explore how to create criteria and how to use those criteria to create a short list of options, and then to move on to a solution. Creating criteria. For the moment, set aside your list of options. It's time to create a framework to evaluate those options. Try not to think about the different options as you create the criteria. Focus instead on the wants and needs of both parties. Criteria should explore what you want and do not want from the solution. You can also prioritize your criteria by what is necessary to have and what you would like to have, also known as needs and wants. Identify any items on the list you would be willing to make a compromise with. The best approach is for each party to take a few moments to write down their individual criteria, and then come together and combine the list to create a final set of criteria. Although it is important to work together on this list, it is also important that the wants and needs of both parties be respected. You may ask, why create criteria after creating options? Wouldn't it make more sense to create a list of criteria and then generate a list of options? Logically, this approach does make more sense, however, it can be difficult to come up with creative options when you already have a framework in mind. Therefore, we recommend brainstorming first and then creating criteria second. Creating a shortlist. Once the criteria have been created, bring out the list of solutions. Eliminate any solutions that do not match the must-have criteria that you and your partner identified. At the end of this process, you should have a small, manageable list of potential solutions. You may find that there are no solutions left after this process. There are two options in this case. One is to reevaluate your criteria and reevaluate the solutions to ensure there really are no options left. Another is to go back to the drawing board and work on additional solution ideas. Choosing a solution. Now, choose a final solution. Remember, you can often combine multiple options for even greater success. Here is a checklist to evaluate the chosen solution. Is it a win-win solution for everyone involved? Are all needs provided for? Are all criteria met? Building a plan. Now let's create a plan to put the solution in action. The complexity of this plan should vary with the complexity of the situation. For simple conflicts, you may frame an agreement like this. Janice and I will take turns taking new customers, and we will make sure that we let each other know when this happens. With complex situations, such as those involving a group of people or multiple option solutions, a detailed action plan may be appropriate. It is important that each party take responsibility for implementing the solution, even if it is determined that one party is at fault. For example, let's say that the conflict resolution process has determined that communication issues between Janet and Susan are causing most of the conflict over new customer assignment. Although Janet and Susan are going to work on this problem by improving communication and keeping fairness in mind, the remainder of the team will be responsible for supporting Janet and Susan and following up to make sure no further issues arise. The action plan should also include a list of things to do if the conflict is not actually resolved after implementing the solution. Typically, the parties will reevaluate the cause and effect diagram to ensure their analysis of the root cause was accurate. They may also want to examine their criteria and explore other solutions.
Thomas was unsure how to proceed with a project, and his work froze. His coworker, Mason, explained that that's not how the world works. Mason gave Thomas a reality check by explaining that in order for something to be done, Thomas had to get up and make it happen. Thomas was certain that a solution was impossible to find. Mason recognized the worry written all over Thomas's face and made a roadmap for Thomas to follow if he wanted to finish eventually. Thomas reluctantly followed the map and soon found that not only could he finish his project, he had the tools to conquer any obstacle that got in his way.
Module 10, the short version of the process. So far, we have explored the 6 phases of the conflict resolution process in depth. As we discussed earlier, these phases can be adapted for virtually any type of conflict. In this module, we will work through an abridged version of the process that can be used easily to successfully resolve conflict. We will also look at some individual steps that can be used as conflict resolution and prevention tools. Evaluating the situation. To begin, we will combine all the groundwork into a single step. Phase 1, creating an effective atmosphere. Take a moment to calm down and deal with your emotions. Look at the possible positive outcomes of the conflict. Phase 2, creating a mutual understanding. Quickly evaluate your wants and needs and those of the other party. Try to identify the real issue. Phase 3, focusing on individual and shared goals. Identify common ground. This information can be gathered in just a few moments, and it will help you identify the most appropriate conflict resolution approach. Remember the 5 approaches that we looked at in Module 2. Although we promote the collaborative approach, there are situations where other approaches are more appropriate and beneficial. Choosing your steps. Now, let's work through phases 4 and 5. Think about the current conflict. Is it really the root cause, or is it just a symptom of a larger problem? Most often, it's just a symptom. How could the problem be resolved? Make a short list of possible solutions, even if it's just in your head. Now we're ready to move on to the next phases. Creating an action plan. Once you have some ideas on how to resolve the conflict, do a quick evaluation. What do you want and need out of the solution? What might the other party need? Use these to sketch out a solution. Remember, if you're going to propose a solution, the other party is going to want to know what's in it for them, so make sure you have something to offer. Have a backup plan too in case your approach doesn't work. This could be a different solution, a different way of presenting your original solution, or even a proposal to move to a more complex resolution process. Simply have some ideas in your back pocket in case your original approach doesn't work. Using individual process steps. In this workshop, we have outlined the various conflict resolution phases in a particular order and with a particular grouping. That doesn't mean that you have to use all the phases all the time. Most of the items we have discussed can be used individually as conflict prevention or resolution tools. Here are some examples. A new person has joined your team. She is very quiet and the team, yourself included, is having a hard time getting to know and like her. You use some of the tools we discussed today to build common ground with her and improve teamwork. Lately, team status meetings have gotten out of hand. People talk over each other, argue constantly, and often leave the room. You suggest implementing ground rules for these meetings. One of your colleagues often behaves very aggressively. You find it very difficult to communicate with him because you find him so intimidating. You use emotional neutralization techniques to focus on your message and reduce the impact of his behavior.
Ruben stormed out of a department meeting in a heated rush. Paul tried to stop him, but his words flew right over Ruben's head. Ruben didn't want his schedule to be changed, but he had no words to explain his dilemma. Instead of listening to Paul, Ruben would avoid and ignore Paul's attempts to help. Paul finally cornered Ruben in his office and made him listen to reason. After finally taking the time to listen to his colleague, Ruben started to ease up. Paul's words were turning Ruben's attitude around, slowly but surely. Ruben admitted what really had him upset, and having Paul there to listen to his venting helped him.
Module 11, Additional Tools. To help wrap up this workshop, we would like to share some additional tools that can help you resolve conflicts. Stress and anger management techniques. There is no doubt about it, dealing with conflict can be hard on the mind and the body. Being well equipped with some stress and anger management techniques can help you stay calm during the conflict resolution process. Nothing is going to get solved when either or both parties are angry and upset. Here are some tips to help keep you cool during the conflict resolution process. Deep breathing has beneficial mental and physical effects. Coping thoughts can help you stay calm too. Some examples: I feel like he is just trying to push my buttons, I'm stronger than that, or I'm not going to let myself get upset. That won't solve anything. Instead, I'm going to focus on getting this conflict solved. Make sure to take breaks as needed. If the person you are in conflict with becomes emotional or stressed, encourage them to take breaks as well. After the conflict is over, talk about it with someone appropriate. The agreement frame. The agreement frame can be used in any situation to explain your viewpoint in an assertive, non-confrontational way without watering your position down. It is designed to encourage discussion and informative sharing between all parties. Although it can be used in many situations, it is particularly effective in conflict resolution. The agreement frame takes one of three forms: I appreciate and, I respect and, I agree and. Here is an example of the agreement frame in use. Remember, the words but and however are conversation stoppers. Try to avoid using them with the agreement frame. Asking open questions. When possible, use the 5 W's or the H to ask a question. Who, what, where, when, why, how. These questions encourage discussion, self-evaluation, and open conversation. Some useful questions for conflict resolution include: what happened? Do you feel that way? When did this problem start? How does that make you feel? Who else is involved?
Nancy knew Raymond had a problem with stress. Raymond carried stress like a monkey on his back. Nancy understood that if she allowed her coworker to continue ignoring the real problem, Raymond would back himself into a corner. Nancy decided the time had come to step in and try to help instead of letting Raymond wind up with a stress injury. Nancy told Raymond that he needed a break and that a brisk walk around the office might clear his head. Raymond was nonplussed about the suggestion, but agreed. After a few laps around the office, Raymond's head felt clearer and he had more energy. Nancy gave him the push he needed to get more done, minus the headaches.
Although this workshop is coming to a close, we hope that your journey to improve and apply the skills that you learned is just the beginning. Please take a moment to review and update your action plan. This will be a key tool to guiding your progress in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. We wish you the best of luck.